Hello and welcome to the Maysville Community Technical College's Pre-Admission Conference for the Associate Degree Nursing Program. This program is offered at 3 of our 4 campuses, the Maysville's main campus, the Licking Valley campus in Cynthiana, and the Montgomery campus in Mount Sterling, Kentucky. We admit every year at all 3 campuses in August, and the deadline to apply for the programs is March 1st of the semester before. That means that all of your requirements need to be met or in the process of being met, but your admission packet needs to be submitted by that date and your TSEX test taken by that date. And we will explain that as we go through the program. Again, welcome to the ADNRN Pre-Admission Conference for Maysville Community and Technical College. My name is Ginger Clark Gallagher. I'm the Associate Vice President of Health Sciences and the Nursing Program Administrator for MCTC. I have included on this slide my phone number and also my email contact if you need to reach me for any reason. I will also give you some other contact information further in the slideshow. So the topics to be discussed in this presentation include the introduction, the application process to the MCTC RN ADN program, the philosophy of the MCTC ADN program, where to find the application packet on the website, how to complete the packet, specific program requirements for the RN program at Maysville Community Technical College, the selective admission process and how it works, health screening requirements including criminal background checks and drug screenings, the deadline for application to the RN program, which is March 1st for all RN campus offerings, notification of acceptance to the RN program, and some scholarships available. So on this slide, we're going to talk about the application process. Where do I find the application? You go to the MCTC website, go under nursing, and right where you found this pre-admission conference, right below that, there's also an admission info packet and an admission signature packet. Those forms we'll be going over today. The information packet is for you to keep, and the signature packet is for you to return to us at the college, and that's your application. So what is considered a complete application? We're going to go over that today, but you must complete all the signature packet forms and return that in your application. You also must send a current copy of your SRNA from the Kentucky Board of Nursing website for your application to be complete. So please make sure that you go to the Kentucky Board of Nursing website, look up your SRNA, print that, and put it in your signature packet to give to us. Applications must be submitted by the deadline to be considered. Incomplete applications, again, will not be considered. And it's your responsibility as the student to ensure that the application is complete and on file by the deadline. Again, the deadline is March 1st of the year prior to August when you would be starting the nursing program. And you mail your application with the signature packet and your SRNA form to the Maysville main campus. You do not want to overnight or send it any kind of special mail that requires signatures or anything like that, because usually it comes to our loading dock and then gets sent back to you, and it will not get to us by the deadline. So the deadline again is March 1st, and that is for it to be postmarked by March 1st. So you can get it to the mail post office prior to March 1st and get it stamped, or you can actually bring it into the college if you would prefer, so that you know that someone gets it. Application to the Maysville Community Technical College's nursing program does not guarantee admission into the nursing program. We do have a selective admission process that we'll discuss later in this slide for admission considerations. Students will be notified via their KCTCS emails if they are accepted or denied admission into the RM program. No information will be given by phone regarding acceptance or denial. It will come to your email. If you do not have a KCTCS email, please list an alternate email address on your application form. Make sure that your email is not full because it may bounce back to us, but that's how we send your acceptance or denial, and you want to check that often. Usually the acceptance or denials go out in mid to late April. This is the philosophy of the MCTC ADN program, so I'm going to give you a few minutes to look this over. So now we're going to go over some information that's in your packets, and this form that is on the screen currently is a form in your information packet called the Nursing Program Estimated Program Fees. And so basically I want you to be aware that there is a chance that these could change, obviously, if the course credit charge goes up, anything like that. But currently the credit hour charge is $195 per credit hour. So you can do the math, and if you figure Nursing 101 is 9 credit hours, you times that by the 195, and that's how much that class would be. The Build Smart fee is $8. Textbooks are about $1,100 for the semester. Your nurse kit per semester is $330. Your ATI access, your VSIMs, and DocuCare per semester are approximately $1,000. ExamSoft per semester is $50. And then we go on to uniforms and your CAP. And required clinical before clinical rotations, we do Castle Branch, which is a records repository that holds information including your background check, your drug screen, and it tracks your immunizations, liability insurance, those kind of things. So you have to load that all up into your Castle Branch. And so it's about $125 to get your immunizations and blood work, depending on what you need, is about $70. Liability insurance is $11, and that's charged through your tuition bill every semester, so it's automatically included. We recommend that you get a stethoscope, and we put about $35. I always say you get what you pay for, and for a stethoscope, if you buy a $4 stethoscope, you won't be able to hear much. I thought that I was losing my hearing and went and had my hearing checked because the unit that I was working on in the hospital bought a bunch of $4 stethoscopes, and I couldn't hear breath sounds or lung sounds or anything. And so, a good stethoscope would cost around $35, $40. You need a watch with a second hand, a blood pressure cuff, and scissors. And then graduation expenses to take the NCLEX to sit for that is about $350. And then the rest of your graduation costs would be there. We also have a list of clinical sites that we may go to on this list. It's not all inclusive, but those are generally the ones we go to most often. So this slide we're going to talk about the required documentation. Some of that required documentation is for the college, and what MCTC requires. The other is clinical facility requirements, which varies from campus to campus depending on the clinical facilities that we use. So the first, let's go to the college requirements, and the first thing is proof that you are on the Nurse Aid Abuse Registry, that you have that certification. Some people call it their SRNA. You get that through the Kentucky Board of Nursing, and to get that information, you go to the Kentucky Board of Nursing's website and look up the license validations, and you can put in your name, and then it should come up that you are on the SRNA, that your certification is active, and when the expiration date is. You print that certificate and you would put that in your application packet. It must be turned in the application packet for us to verify. And my biggest recommendation that I will give to you is to keep that certification active until you graduate from the nursing program. Simply because if you let it lapse, you would have to take the course over again and take the nurse state testing over again, because if for some reason you have to get out of the program, you have a family illness, maybe you're unsuccessful, anything like that, and you have to leave the program, but you want to be admitted the next application cycle, and that has expired, you won't be considered, because it is a requirement that you have that. So please look at the date of that and see when it expires, so that you make sure that you follow what you have to do to keep it up to date. The next is CPR certification or recertification. At the college, we require that you have a CPR certification that is not done online. You have to do your checkoff face-to-face, and it has to include infant, child, adult, and AED for the certification. Sometimes they call it a healthcare provider certification. Sometimes it might be something different, but usually we like it through the American Heart Association, and it says healthcare required. If you have a basic CPR for laymen, that will not be accepted. So just please look at your CPR certification and make sure that it has infant, child, adult, and AED. The next is professional liability insurance proof. We include that with your tuition each semester. It's about $11 a semester, so know that you do have that, and we just automatically include it in your tuition, so that makes it easier for everyone to make sure that we have that paid. The next are the clinical facility requirements. Again, this could be possible or it could be mandatory depending on where you go. But one is a drug screen and a criminal background check. We do those through our records repository through Castle Branch. We have a contract with Castle Branch, and that's where students upload their data. So they have specific sites that you would go to have your drug screen and criminal background check. Please don't do them until you've been talked to about them with your faculty members, and they can tell you where you have to go, etc. With the drug screening and criminal background check, this is a 2-year program, so you have to get it the first year, and usually you have to also get it before the start of the second year to make sure that nothing has happened during that year that a facility might turn you down for going to that clinical site. You have to have a rubella titer, varicella immunization record or titer, mumps immunization record or titer, a hepatitis B surface antigen or HBsAg, which is a series of 3 vaccinations, or an acute hepatitis panel. Some facilities require respirator fit test. You have to have a TB test, and that's usually a 2-step PPD, which means that you have one and then a week or 2 later you have another one, or it could be a quantiferin gold TB test or a chest x-ray, which you have to have yearly You might have to have a flu shot during the flu season, and you may have to have proof of COVID vaccine requirement. So that just depends on the facility. Most do not require that anymore, but occasionally we might have the odd place that requires COVID vaccination proof. So this is our sheet. It's our ADM check sheet, and this is in your information packet that you got off the nursing website for MCTC. It gives you some contact information for the Health Sciences Division, some information about the program, and some unique requirements for admissions. One is that we have a selective admissions committee that goes over each applicant, and so to be fully qualified to be a candidate for the program, there are some requirements that you need to do, such as having a current application for admission to KCTCS or MCTC. You can do that on the MCTC website. You have to just simply hit apply and fill that information out. You have to send your official transcripts to the registrar. We can't have copies of transcripts that you have. They have to be officially sent to the registrar so they can put them in. You also must be on the SRNA registry, the Kentucky Nurse Aid Registry. It has to be active. You must be in good academic standing with the college, and you must attend one pre-admission conference, which you are doing. We have to have official results of your TEAS examination, and you must meet the minimum score to be qualified. You can take that test 2 times in an admission cycle, and the test can be no older than 3 years for an admission cycle. You also have to have a GPA of 2.5 or higher to be considered for the program, and you must submit your packet, your application, no later than March 1st of each year to be considered for the following fall semester. And that basically is, if you submit it late, you will not be considered in the first round of applicants. So if we fill up a cohort of students for the program, then we will not consider any applications that come in late. If you apply late and we do have some positions left, we can put you in the second round and go over your application at the end of the spring semester. So you really want to try to get that application in before March 1st so you could be in that first round of applications to be considered. You also have to have your Red Cross, which we talked about earlier, CPR, or American Heart. And if you're an LPN who's coming into the program, you need to follow those LPN rules. We also have the curriculum on the right-hand side of the page and some additional information, such as you have to have your own transportation to the community agencies that we use, to the college, etc. And we'll talk about this, but the Kentucky Board of Nursing may deny a nursing graduate admission to take the test, to sit for the NCLEX exam, if the individual has been convicted of a misdemeanor or felony, and if it involves acts that bear directly to all the qualifications of the graduate to practice nursing. And then that talks about career potential. The next slide we're going to discuss is about the ATI-TEAS examination. And the ATI-TEAS examination is the test of essential academic skills. It's an exam that's standardized. It has standardized test questions, multiple choice, designed to assess a student's readiness for nursing school or any allied health program. It evaluates basic academic skills in 4 key areas: reading, which includes comprehension and interpretation of passages, math, which is arithmetic, algebra, and data interpretation, science, which is biology, chemistry, anatomy, physiology, and the scientific reasoning, and English and language usage, which includes grammar, punctuation, sentence structure, and vocabulary. The exam consists of about 170 questions, and it's a crucial step for admission. It is a requirement that we have to make sure that you're prepared and you're ready for the program. So again, it's multiple choice. There are several options to study that include anything from a free app on your phone. Go to ATIT's exam preparation and you can get a free app that will prepare you, and it's a good idea to study. I highly recommend that you study, because if you don't and you go in, you won't do well, and it's cost about $70 to take it. So try to study. And prepare. It'll help boost your confidence and increase your success rate. And you can also go to the www.atitesting.com/events, and it has free webinars. We have something in the library that you can check out to help you. So we really want to help you as much as possible to prepare for this test. This flyer is from the CEOC TRIO Educational Opportunity Center, and they can help you pay for the T's. You would want to contact them directly sooner than later, so they can see there is qualifications that you have to meet in order for them to help you, but they do give T's vouchers, so it's worth a try to get them to help you pay for it. So you can scan that QR code or give them a call. So this is our admissions point sheet that the selective admission committee goes over with each applicant to see how that student stands with the application pool in terms of points to get into the program. When we get an application, we go over each student's PeopleSoft information to get their grades, to see how they've done, and that lets us go in and find this information out. You can use this sheet to figure out your own points, so you could get an idea of where you stand as well. So in area 1, that's points given for prerequisites. So if you've taken and completed your Bio 137, Bio 139, Bio 225, then you would get 2 points for taking those. If you are currently taking Bio 137 or 139 and you're in the middle of the class, when you turn in your application, we will not give you 2 points for that because you have not completed it. Now, for the Bio 225 Medical Micro, oftentimes students may take that in between their first and second year of the nursing program, in that summer semester when they're off from the nursing program. And that's perfectly fine. If you want to take it early and you have time to take it early, it's just another way to get more points and be a stronger candidate for applying for the program. I will say sometimes it's good to take it early simply because you have a chance, if you don't achieve a C or higher, then you have a chance to retake it. If you wait until that summer semester in between the first and second year of the nursing program, it's a co-requisite, meaning that you have to have it prior to, or it is a prerequisite, I should say, and you have to have it prior to going into that third semester of the nursing program. So if you get a C or less, you will not be able to move forward in the nursing program. And then you have your general psychology or math 141 or higher, your English 101, and your humanities and heritage classes. So we go through those and see that you've taken those, and you can get up to 14 points in that category for the classes taken. We take those points and put it down at the bottom of the sheets when it says summary of applicant admission points, and we put the points in area 1. Then we move down to area 2, and that's grades for your bio and math courses. So if you've taken your math 150 or the math requirement that we ask for, your bio 137 through 225, we look at your grades, and if you got an A, you will get 10 points for each A that you receive in that class. If you get a B, you will get 5 points for each grade that you receive in that class. Now, one of the things that you can see right above this is any class that has been taken more than twice, you will not get grades for, or points for the grades that you received. So if you've taken your bio 137, but it took you 3 to 4 attempts to get a passing grade of a C, then we will not give you points. Maybe the 4th attempt you got an A. Well, we're not going to give you points for that. We will give you the 2 points for passing the class, but we will not give you the 10 points or the 5 points for the higher grades. So I truly encourage people to do well in those math and science prerequisites so that you get those points. And it's a pretty good amount of points to get for working hard in those classes and getting an A or B. We also will give you 3 points if you take the class in person at an MCTC campus. And the reason that we do this is because, one, it strengthens you as a nursing student. It gets you used to coming to classes. It gets you used to being on campus for multiple hours a day, which is what's required of the nursing program. It also makes students stronger in general because they are getting that information that might be lost a little bit in translation with the online programs. And it's another way to encourage you to do well. Students who do well in their sciences especially do well in the nursing program. Students who are weak in their bios are sometimes weak in the classes because we expect you to know the growth and development. We expect you to know those muscles and bone structure, anatomy and physiology, and we don't review that necessarily. We expect you to have that knowledge and move forward. So having those strong students, the A and B students, makes a big difference. Area 3 goes to what your college GPA is. So when you look at that, as I said earlier, your minimum requirement for your GPA has to be an overall of 2.5. But if you have a 3.0 up to a 4.0, you can get points for that higher GPA. So again, it's just saying work hard so that you're ready for that nursing program, because that will be one of the hardest things you'll ever do. So we want the stronger students if we can get them, and that's why we reward you with those points. We also give you points if you have direct patient care, healthcare work. We will give you 2 points for that. There's a form in the packet that you have to fill out. You have to take it to where you work and have either the director of nursing, the floor manager, or someone in HR fill it out for you. You cannot fill it out yourself. If you fill it out yourself, you simply won't get the points. And know that we will check that with the facility that you have written down that you have experience with. Also, if you have military experience, we give you 2 points for that. You just have to give us a copy of your military ID or some form to prove that you are in the military. Area 4 is the TEAS test and the scores that you receive on this TEAS test. So the minimum score you can get on a TEAS examination is a 41.3. If you get lower than a 41.3, you can retake the TEAS examination one time in an admission cycle. So that admission cycle is 1 year. So you can take it 2 times, basically a year. If you take it 3 times and the first 2 you score below 41.3 and you do excellent on the 3rd one, we still won't accept that. It has to be the first 2 times in an admission cycle. If your test is older than 3 years, you will have to retake your T's because we want that current. And I recommend if you score in the basic area a 41.3 to a 58.6 that you consider taking that examination again, studying, and then retaking the examination so that you do get points. We have a lot of people that take the examination and get 5 points. We have some that get 10 points, and we have very few that get 15. But I would definitely shoot for at least 5 points. It's just going to increase your chances of getting in. And then again, at the bottom is a summary of the application admission points. So each area we put how many points you received, and then we total it up. So if you have any questions, you can give someone in the department, one of the nursing faculty, or myself a call, or one of the healthcare or health sciences success coaches can answer these questions as well. To have your application complete, you have to have completed the ATIT's exam by the application deadline, which is March 1st. So if, as we talked about in the point sheet for the selective admissions, the required score to be considered for the ADN program is a basic score, which is above 41.3%. If you fall below that level, we will not consider you for the program, so I highly recommend that you retest it. Again, I highly recommend that you study for the TEAS exam, but that will help you get a better score. So basic is considered a 41.3 to 58.6. You will receive 0 points if you get that basic score. We consider it proficient if you get a 58.7 to a 77.9 and above, so it gives you 5 points, 10 points, or 15 points. If you get below a 41.3, that is considered remedial, and that is why we can't consider you for the program. So if you didn't test well the first time, you may retake it 1 time per admission cycle, which is that admission year. The retake has to be completed prior to the admission deadline for the desired admission date. So the best score of the 2 attempts will be used to calculate the points for this selective admission. So again, I recommend that you study. I recommend that you do well, and if you don't do well and you want those at least 5 points, I would recommend that you retake it again. I have another part on this slide that has some study tips for you to be able to study for the exam. So the next form included in your packet is a statement of understanding. This form will have to be returned with your admission packet to the college. And it says, as a student of this program, I agree to the rules, regulations, policies, and procedures as stated below. The program requires a period of assigned guided clinical experiences, either at the college or other appropriate facility in the community. For educational purposes and practice on live models, I will allow other students to practice procedures on me, and I will practice procedures on them under the guidance and direct supervision of my instructor. The nature and educational objectives of these procedures have been fully explained to me. No guarantee or assurances have been given to me by any representative of the college as to any problem that might be incurred as a result of these procedures. So usually you have lab partners that you practice head-to-toe assessments on. You practice listening to heart sounds, lung sounds, bowel sounds, different things like that. So that it gives you a much better way to practice than listening on a mannequin. These clinical experiences are assigned by the instructor for their educational value, and thus no payments or wages will be earned or expected. It is understood I will be a student within the clinical facilities that affiliate with my college, and will conduct myself accordingly. I will follow all required and published personnel policies, standards, philosophy, and procedures of these agencies. I will agree at my own expense to obtain all health screenings, immunizations, criminal background checks, and drug screenings as required by the affiliating agency. I have been provided a copy of and read and agree to adhere to the college policies, rules, and regulations related to the program for which I am applying. I understand that information regarding patient or former patients is confidential and may be used only for clinical purposes within an educational setting, according to the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996, or HIPAA. I understand that the educational experiences and knowledge gained during the program do not entitle me to a job. However, if all educational objectives and licensure requirements are successfully obtained, I will be qualified for a job in this occupation. I understand that any action on my part inconsistent with the above understandings may result in suspension of training. I understand that I am liable for my own medical and hospital expenses, and I understand that I am accountable for my own actions. Therefore, I will carry the minimum liability insurance, which again is in your tuition cost each semester, the facility. So you say I have read and understand each term above and agree to abide by this statement of understanding, and you sign it and date it, and you'll return that with your admission packet. Now, to go into a little more depth of some of these, I will say number 4, it says that you understand that you're a student within the clinical facilities that affiliate with the college. If you look on the previous sheet that gave you some of the examples of places we go, if a facility refuses you admittance into their clinical setting for some reason, if you were fired from that facility, we will try to find another facility. But if we don't go to another facility, then that may exclude you from the program. When you talk about adhering to the college's policies, rules, and regulations, we give you a student handbook at the beginning of the nursing program, and that is your Bible basically for the program. It tells you about uniforms, what you have to be, what you have to wear to clinical facilities, about professionalism, and we are very strong on you following those rules. If for some reason you come to a clinical setting and you are out of uniform for some reason, you wore purple shoes, you wore your hair, you have 15 earrings in and your tongue is pierced. If you have not taken those things out for the clinical setting, you can be sent home and given an unsatisfactory for that. We're very strict on the rules. I am the first person that a facility will usually contact to say, why is your student out of uniform? If you have tattoos, they have to be covered. Why is your student having tattoos? If our facility says you can't do that, that our own staff can't do that, then why should your students be able to do that? And they know who our students are, those facilities. You guys are all in the same colors. And if I get that call and I have to call the clinical instructor and say who's out of uniform, who's wearing jewelry, who's wearing a tongue ring, etc., you will be sent home and you will be given an unsatisfactory. If you get 3 unsatisfactories, again, you are out of the program. So we follow those rules not just because we like to write rules. Those came from the facilities. We have long-standing relationships with the facilities we go to, and it's not fair for students to be out of the conformed uniform that their staff have to be in. So yes, our restrictions are strict. We expect you to follow them. I don't care what you do when you're working on your own time, but when you're in a facility and you're representing the college and you're representing the nursing program, we expect you to adhere to all uniform requirements. We expect you to act professionally at all times, have your badge on at all times if you're representing the college. And so those are things that you want to definitely be aware of and know that we are very strict on that. HIPAA is another thing that we are very concerned about. Breaking HIPAA is can result in a huge fine for students, up to $250,000 of your money. It wouldn't be covered under the liability insurance. So we all live in small towns. MCTC is basically every campus is in a small rural area, and everybody knows everybody. So we take this very seriously, and you do not want to talk about a patient that you are caring for at any time anywhere outside of the setting of the hospital to your instructor or to the nurse caring for them. You don't even want to discuss it between each other. You don't want to discuss it at the lunch table, what you did to Mr. So-and-so in room 239A, because their family may be sitting there and know exactly who you're talking about. And the hospital can find out that you broke HIPAA, and they can call us, and they can refuse to allow you back into the facility, which basically means that you would be out of the program. So we take HIPAA very seriously, and you don't want to put anything on social media. You don't want to put anything out there that would in any way jeopardize your admission into the program, or the possibility of being fined federally for breaking HIPAA confidence. The next form in your packet is technical standards. So it says nursing at the technical level involves the provisions of direct care for individuals and is characterized by the application of verified knowledge in the skillful performance of nursing functions. Therefore, in order to be retained in the program, all applicants should possess 1, sufficient visual acuity, such as needed in the preparation and administration of medications and for the observation necessary for patient assessment and nursing care. So that means that you have to be able to see adequately to draw up medications in a syringe, that you can read that syringe in those tiny numbers, or it can be corrected with glasses. 2, sufficient auditory perception to receive verbal communication from patients and members of the healthcare team, and to assess health needs in people through the use of monitoring devices such as cardiac monitors, stethoscopes, IV infusion pumps, dop tones, fire alarms, etc. 3, sufficient gross and fine motor coordination to respond promptly and to implement the skills, including the manipulation of equipment required in meeting health needs. So you have to be able to support a patient, carry a patient if they fall, help lift a patient, and also have fine motor coordination, again, to draw up syringes, different things like that. 4, sufficient communication skills, speech, reading, writing, to interact with individuals and to communicate their needs promptly and effectively as may be necessary in the individual's interests. Sufficient intellectual and emotional functions to plan and implement care for individuals. So this form again needs to be signed and returned to the main campus with your admission packets. And it has, if you need any special accommodations, that you contact myself or Lori Gantz at the registrars or admissions department. This form in your packet is the student data form. So it has your personal information, and one of the things that we do ask about is that English is your second language, and then your race and ethnicity. We need this for our KBN benchmark reporting, so if you will please fill that out for sure. We also need to make sure that you have a good phone number and a good KCTCS email. We need to be able to contact you in the way that you're contacted if you are admitted into the program is through email. So please make sure that it's a good email contact for us, that you have a good phone number. We also need your emergency contact information, and then the appropriate response for if you're a new student, if you're an LPN to RN, or readmission student. Thank you. So the next signature form in your packet is the Kentucky Board of Nursing, or KBN's Crime Conviction Procedure Acknowledgement. And this is you acknowledging that you have read the KBN mandatory reporting and criminal convictions and disciplinary action forms in the packet. The Kentucky nursing laws require that all misdemeanor and felony convictions in Kentucky courts, or those in any other state, federal, military, or other U.S. jurisdictions, regardless of when they occurred, must be reported to the Kentucky Board of Nursing. So this form is an acknowledgement that you have read that you understand that you can be denied the ability to sit for your NCLEX board exams at the end of your program due to criminal convictions. So this is something that I highly recommend that you think about if you have things on your background check that you know of, and before you pay all the money to come into the nursing program, reach out to the Kentucky Board of Nursing and talk to them, because if you fail to report a conviction or disciplinary action, that they can revoke your license. Even now, I have to, if something happens and gets on my background, if I commit a felony, I have to report it to the board, and so any prospective students have to report to the board before they can sign up to take the NCLEX. And you actually have to do an FBI background check. So it's a very intense background check that they will do before you sit for boards. So I have actually heard from the board that they can fine you. They had a nursing student who didn't disclose the information before they sat for boards, and they did allow them to sit for their boards, but as soon as they were issued a nursing license, they were fined, and it was a quite substantial fine that they had to pay. So immediately they got their nursing license, and then they had to pay before they were allowed to practice. So you want to think about that and reach out to that, and that will also go, you will have to do a criminal background check for Castle Branch before you can go to clinicals. And if you have something on your background check that the clinical facility says you cannot attend, then that's a possibility that you may have to be removed from the program because of that background check. So I want everybody to be very aware of that before they apply for the program. Ask questions before you pay for the program. We don't want you to pay and then have something like this hold you up. So that's what this form is, acknowledgement that you have read the mandatory reporting of criminal convictions and disciplinary actions from the Kentucky Board of Nursing. This form is our nursing care work experience documentation form. So this is to prove that you have some work experience in the medical field. It could be that you're an LPN, you're a paramedic, you were a nurse aide, maybe you worked at a doctor's office. This would be what this form is. It can give you 2 extra points on your selective admission form if you have this filled out. It has to be filled out by the director of nursing or the head of HR at the company that you worked for, and it cannot be signed by you. You have to sign it under the applicant, but the work experience supervisor or employer has to sign it in the other box. So if you sign that, we will not take this and give you the 2 points if it has not been signed by the facility. We will check with the facility to make sure that this is accurate, and we also can give you 2 points for having military experience. So you just have to send in a copy of your military ID or proof that you were in the military. This form is our policy for readmission. So if you are considering trying to come back in because you were unsuccessful in one of our programs, you can look at this form, and it's in your admission packet. And the big things that you have to do are submit a letter to myself to say why you want to be considered for readmitting into the program. You also have to get a faculty member to recommend that you be in the program, but you can read this in your packet and get further information. And on this slide, I'd like to celebrate some great accomplishments of our ADN to RM programs at Maysville Community and Technical College. We know that you have choices in the state. We know that there are a lot of nursing programs out there. But when you pick Maysville Community and Technical College, it's great to know that you have picked a school that has been ranked in the top 10 nursing programs several times over the last 6 years. We are really proud of that accomplishment. Our faculty is so dedicated to our students, and it's something that you might not find at a bigger school or university. The cost to go to a 4-year school as compared to a community college is about twice as much. And so those are things that we're proud of. We're proud of our faculty and the work that they do to make sure that our students are successful. We're proud of our students. Our students have to work hard to get to pass that NCLEX on the first try and have that 100% pass rate. And so just to tell you, this year, it was updated in July 2025. The Maysville main campus was named number 4 in the state of Kentucky, and that was over several 4-year universities. So we're really proud of our track record. The LVC campus has been ranked number 1 in the state within the last 6 years, and we're really proud of that accomplishment as well. And if you look, I have put the Kentucky rankings. You can go to the registerednursing.org and look. If you go to our website, you can see the benchmarks for Kentucky Board of Nursing to see that we do have a good graduation rate and pass rate at our programs, and we're really proud of that. But I will say that you need to understand that nursing school will be the hardest thing that you will ever do. I went to school 35 years ago, and nursing school was by far one of the hardest things that I ever did. And it's only gotten harder. You have to know that it requires a lot of sacrifice of time. You have to be committed. You are going to give up time with your family and friends and fun events because you're going to be studying. And you have to think of it like going to nursing school as a full-time job. And you have to be dedicated to that job. You can't miss. You got to come to work. You got to come to class. And I like to tell people that so that you are aware that you have to make those hard choices sometimes, and just know it is so rewarding to say that I'm a nurse, and I always consider myself a nurse first, and I know that I worked hard to get where I am, and you'll have to work hard to get where you are, but the rewards are endless. This form is your campus selection form. So we have 3 campuses currently. We have the Maysville main campus in Maysville, Kentucky, the Montgomery campus in Mount Sterling, Kentucky, and the Licking Valley campus in Cynthiana, Kentucky. You probably are going to choose a campus that you are interested in by your location of where you live. But some people want to apply to all 3 campuses, and you can do that, but we need you to put what your first choice is, your second choice is, and your third choice. Maybe you live in Cynthiana, so you're going to put the LVC campus as your first choice. And then whichever one's closer to where you live is your second choice. Maybe there's only one campus you're willing to go to, then you just write that campus down. You will only be chosen for one campus, and we will take your order of preference in consideration. But if you choose, let's say, the Montgomery or Licking Valley campus, they can't take as many students because the Kentucky Board of Nursing limits how many students we can take per campus. And the Maysville main campus can take more students if they're qualified. And so sometimes because of your points and different things, you may put Licking Valley or Montgomery as your first choice, but they have filled up because of the applicant pool and who has higher points than you. So if you put Maysville as your second choice, you may get assigned to the Maysville campus, and that will be the campus you're chosen for. So this form has to be filled out with your name and what choice you want to be chosen for. Thank you. So at the beginning of the conference, I talked about some scholarship information that I would give you. And the first one is from the Kentucky Board of Nursing, and it's the Nursing Incentive Scholarship Fund. It gives $1,500 per academic semester or $3,000 per academic year. The great thing about this scholarship is you do not have to use it towards just tuition and books. You can use it for cost of living expenses such as gas, childcare, food, your car payment, etc. So it's a great thing, and the way that you have to repay it is after graduation. Each scholarship recipient is required to work full-time or equivalent as a nurse in Kentucky for 6 months for every academic semester funded. If you graduate from nursing and choose to continue your career in nursing education, you can apply for a new scholarship during that time, but you will have to repay it if you move out of state. But it's a great scholarship if you're planning to stay in the state of Kentucky, and it's great because it doesn't tell you what you have to use it for, but you can use it for just cost of living things while you're going to school. And another is through the state of Kentucky, and it's WIOA, WIOA, and another is from certain hospitals and facilities around the school locations that we go through, such as St. Clair will offer scholarships for students who are interested in going into a healthcare profession, as long as they sign a contract agreeing to go work for them when they graduate. So it's kind of nice to know that you have a job when you graduate, but you also have help financially for going to school when it's really difficult to work. The last form that I want to talk about is your certificate of completion form that you've completed the pre-admission conference. So we need your printed name, the date that you viewed it, the email address that you want us to contact you at, and then you're going to say that you, nurse student, has listened to the online advising session and have read the program admission packet, etc., that you're aware of the following topics pertaining to the associate degree nursing program, and that's all listed there. You sign it, you put today's date, and then the pre-admission conference verification code, which is MCTC Proud ADNRN. So again, MCTC Proud ADNRN. Include this with your nursing application packet and turn that into the college. And finally, I want to remind everyone to please make sure they take their TEAS examination with the testing center at any of the MCTC campuses. I recommend that you take that earlier rather than waiting until the end of February, because if you need to take it again, you want to have time to study and retest. Also, make sure that you fill out the paperwork that's required in that signature packet that's marked with blue writing at the top, and be sure to return it to the Maysville Community Technical College's main campus in Maysville, Kentucky. Do not send it via overnight shipping, or that a signature is required, or any kind of special delivery. It just needs to be sent regular mail. It has to be postmarked by March 1st, and you send it to the attention of the nursing department at MCTC, 1755 US 68 in Maysville, Kentucky. and the zip is 41056. Please make sure you include a copy of your SRNA from the KBN if you have taken and passed the state test for nurse aide. Make sure that that's included, because that's considered to have a complete packet. If you haven't taken your state test yet, that is okay. We will see that you've taken the class, and we will check that before the first day of class. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or one of the division assistants. We're happy to help you, and I've included our phone numbers there. And I just kind of want to tell you how things roll once we get all the applications in. So the due date for mailing them is March 1st. We give it a week, and we start compiling the list of applicants, adding up the points. We look in your PeopleSoft, see what classes you've completed, etc., what grades. We do that point sheet, and then we compile the list of all the applicants on a spreadsheet that we share with the committee. The committee meets and goes over that and decides who is going to be accepted into the program. So it's not just one person who decides that, but it is a committee that decides that. And we look at your overall points, how you did in your math and sciences, and how you did on your TEAS test. So we're looking at those things to decide if you're accepted or denied. I can't tell you the magic number. It depends on the application pool of how many points you need to get into the program. So you probably will not hear from us until mid to late April. You will be getting an email to say whether you've been accepted into the program, conditionally accepted into the program, or denied the acceptance in the program. Or you might get a letter that says you have been accepted with the second round. What that means is that with the second round, we are looking at your application again after grades are posted in May. Grades have to be posted by the Monday after finals week. They're required to be posted. We look at those second round applicants again, refigure their points, and then decide if, the committee meets again, and then we go through who we will accept. And we have a limited amount of space that we can accept at each campus. So you will be getting a letter at that point as well of whether you're accepted or we deny your acceptance. So usually that happens in mid-May. So I wish you the best of luck. I encourage you to work hard in your classes, and we look forward to seeing you in August. Thanks.